I began the sketch by analyzing the finished painting and the overall image of the character. It was based on a simple design. First, I outlined the oval of the head, slightly elongated vertically, defining the facial axis of symmetry and the tilt of the head to immediately establish the character and mood. Next, I added the lines for the eyes, nose, and mouth without going into detail, merely establishing the proportions. Using a B2 pencil, I worked gently without pressing hard, allowing the lines to remain lively and fluid. I defined the hair in large masses, establishing the direction of the strands, rather than drawing every detail. I sketched the neck and shoulders roughly, maintaining a slight asymmetry to prevent the image from appearing static. I initially outlined the clothing and jewelry with simple shapes, refining them after checking the figure's proportions. I used the eraser extensively, removing unnecessary lines, softening the contours of the face, and adjusting the angle of the eyes and the shape of the lips. The resulting sketch was simple yet informative. It clearly conveyed the character, pose, and key elements of the future painting without cluttering the page with unnecessary details. After completing the sketch, I moved on to painting with acrylic paints. I completed the work in stages, moving from the general to the specific to maintain control over the composition and color balance. I used 3 brushes, a larger than medium brush for large surfaces, a medium brush for shapes and transitions, and a fine brush for details and contours. I began with the background, choosing a rich green. Using a larger than medium brush, I evenly filled the space around the figure, using broad brush strokes. I intentionally kept the background flat and bright. It doesn't distract from the character, but rather emphasizes it and creates a contrast with the skin and hair. Then, I moved on to the clothing. First, I laid down the main color spots, blue for the dress and yellow for the decorative element. Using a medium brush, I developed the shape, adding subtle unevenness to the brushstrokes to prevent the fabric from looking plasticky. I later enhanced the contours of the clothing with black paint using a fine brush, giving the image a graphic quality. I painted the hair with a rich red color, starting with large masses. I used a medium brush to establish the general direction of the strands. After drying, I added dark lines and accents with a fine brush, emphasizing the rhythm and movement of the hair. I didn't strive for realistic detailing. It was more important to convey expression and energy. I approached the face more carefully. First, I laid down the basic flesh tone, then added warmer and darker shades for the shadows. I worked on the eyes and lips with a fine brush, making them expressive and slightly exaggerated. I emphasized the facial contours and features with a black line, enhancing the decorative nature of the work. Finally, I added small details, jewelry, a tattoo on the arm, and strokes and accents on the face. I worked on these elements slowly using a fine brush, trying not to overload the composition. It was at this stage that the painting acquired its completeness and individuality. Critical evaluation of the painting. What worked well? The painting works well due to the contrast of colors and the expressive imagery. The bright background highlights the character, and the graphic contours add cohesion to the style. The hair and face are emotional and eye-catching. What didn't work or could be improved? The facial proportions appear intentionally distorted in places. This could be a plus, but in other areas, the eyes, neckline, the imbalance is too noticeable. The transitions in the skin could be softened by adding more shades and tones. What could be added or changed? The background could be more complex by adding texture or subtle color variations. More nuances in the clothing would also be interesting. Folds, chiaroscuro, and additional color accents. Style and audience. The work is executed in a naive, expressive, decorative style with elements of primitivism and art brut. This painting will appeal to those who appreciate bright colors, emotional imagery, artistic simplicity, and an illustrative approach. It's well suited for posters, art prints, and creative spaces.